Hi guys, this is Kyra.
You got honey on your lips, lick your fingertips, icing on your kiss, sugar rushing in.
The first song, funny enough, the first song was my mom's playing Carpenters, a lot of Carpenter songs, all her songs, which is different from the songs I release now, but truly that's when I was like, okay, this is cool. I could see myself doing this. But the moment I realized was when I attended this concert growing up, and it was this artist named Amuro Namie, and it was a really, really cool pop. She had some sexy, dark elements to it that made me be like, what is this? And I remember she was on a carousel in the concert. Started off with this really, really freaky show. It was almost like Alice in Wonderland. And as a child, I was standing on top of the chair because I couldn't see, and I was just like, this is so cool. I don't know what this is, but I want to be there where she's standing. And that was the moment that I started my journey. I remember I went home that day and I printed all the songs, printed all the lyrics, and just locked myself in a room the first day I got home from that concert. And I was 8. I remember my parents had no idea where I was going to go, and I had to say bye to them, and I started living by myself at 14. So from 14 to 18, 19, it was so scary, but I am such a happy-go-lucky person. Whatever happens, let's just do it, And I felt like I grew up in a very challenging environment, and being a mixed person, I was not fit to the society. I was not accepted the way I wanted to be in the society. And with that being said, I felt like I was 14, but I would always say I have nothing to lose. So I just went all in, and it was tough, not gonna lie, but a lot of them, I took it as a challenge, and I mostly enjoyed it more than suffering through it, so yeah.
I give my all to have just one more with you. I risk my life to feel your body next to mine, 'cause I can't go on living in the memory of us. So I give my all for your love.
I grew up doing gymnastics, and I was being trained for Olympics. This is another thing that people don't really know about me. But I was being trained, and I was going to be sent to, I believe, China to compete, but I competed in Japan, and I was top 3 out of 500 people. And so that was really cool, but there was like a limit that I just felt like I was not satisfied with, however, far I go into the gymnastic world. And that's when I started taking piano lessons as well. And my parents were like, let's try that too. I know you love doing this, and I also did other stuff. And they saw it as, okay, you're good at this, you could do this too, but what is something that you feel uncomfortable but enjoy doing, and you could push through? And that was music for me.
Don't recognize myself these days. Feels like I'm running back and forth with you.
That was the first ever song that I released. When I turned 18 was the time when I felt like I was not in the same world as the people that I was working with back then. And that's when I just stepped away for a moment and really figure out myself, and I moved out here and started working on my craft, and the first song was Connect. And it was a very vulnerable song, so it was very, very scary for me. And I'm not used to that, being able to cry in front of people or even talk about my life to people. And so it was all new, and it was such a scary, scary stage of my life. But after I got it over with, it was just the most rewarding feeling ever. That was definitely a part of my era that I embrace and love, and really the sound that I'm making right now is a lot different than that, which is, I'm really, really excited for people to hear it and be able to know what world I'm trying to bring to them. And but definitely it has a little bit of effect to it, and I feel like not just production wise, but melody wise, and I always have a way of doing my melodies, and I always just get on a session and I put on like this, characteristic, and I always just, it was hard for me at first because it was more scary, but I would let other people do the passes and they get in the studio and the booth and just come up with any melodies. And now I'm always the one to be like, I want to go first to be able to share the world and to be able to know the direction I'm going and to tell the story with people that I work with, because I have a hard time explaining the sound I want and the world that I want to give out with words. And I feel like by just singing it, you kind of get a little bit of hint. And there's definitely an element of that I always carry till this day, even with the sound that I'm creating is different right now.
背景元気にしてますか？満足してますか？元気だったら嬉しいです。未来で待ってます。
The intro, it had a little bit of kind of like a Japanese intro that I had, and that was something that I just said randomly when I was cutting vocals. And Ariza was like, this is cool, let's keep that in there, what does it mean? And it was just the beginning of the letter that you would write to someone, but the letter that I was writing was towards myself, but future self, and are you satisfied with the version of yourself right now? And that's what I'm kind of saying in that beginning of that. And I feel like a lot of people wouldn't get that in the beginning because the language barrier, and even sometimes for me what helps the most is visual, because when I hear a sound I immediately think of a shot or a scenery or like a moment that I just like stuck in my head, and I'm a very visual person, and I also edit videos, so that really helps in the process of that in a way that I know I couldn't explain it with words. So I have two elements that I could kind of communicate with, which is visual and also music and the sound.
You got honey on your lips, stick your fingertips, icing on your kiss, sugar rushing in. I just can't get enough.
This was funny. We shot this at a abandoned Vaughn's headquarters, and there was no light at all. And so the crew had to bring in lights, and we had some, fires and this really cool spotlight, a lot of cool elements to it. And initially, I wanted to just show cars and all that to kind of show speed. But then Yuri Hong, who I had worked with on this video, was, why don't we express the elements of speed, whether if it's the smoke, whether if it's the glass, whether if it's something that you feel the kind of momentum to the speed. And that's how we kind of started creating this a little bit moody, dark scene with the bike, and it's a little bit of raunchiness to it, which kind of connects to my upcoming sound. So there's like a little bit of sprinkles to that. I had no idea that we were going to be shooting in an abandoned place, and I remember I was doing my makeup at this market's parking lot, and the hairstylist just like pulled up a chair and a table, and people are like going back to their cars, putting their groceries and stuff, and I'm just next to them doing my makeup. So it was a really cool, fun experience. I never thought I'd be doing my makeup at a grocery store. I've always been a very perfectionist person, and also the training comes in play of how I became the person I am today, and also being in an environment where it's like nothing is good enough. I became more of like a control freak to myself rather than to people around me. And I've always been so competitive, but not towards people or any other artist, but just myself. And how much can I impress myself? And I just kept on going and going to the point where I felt like, okay, what's the point of impressing myself if I'm not gonna be able to truly be honest with myself and come in face to face, and okay, you gotta grow in this aspect. And so I feel like I do know what I want, and that's something that I always think about, and I see like this person that I want to become, and it obviously a long process to even get there, and some people won't even get there. And having that as like a point to go and seeing these little like pit stops really helps me. But I am still a control freak, but I'm trying to pipe the fuck down as well. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm everywhere. It's all under Kyra Machida. Hi, my name is Kyra, and I just been buzzed.
I wonder if there's like somebody know.
Okay.